I'm Dane Rose. It's October 2020, and I've just finished watching the documentary called Phenomena, which is in the same media section. And it's a history of governmental and different nations' sightings and relationships with unidentified flying object and alien phenomena. There's a principle in science and scientific theory called Occam's razor. And Occam's razor dictates that you use the simplest available theory to explain known phenomena. That if there is a simpler explanation, go with that approach. And for whatever reason, perhaps laziness or fear of complexity, Occam's razor has a lot of credit and weight in the scientific community. My own view is the exact opposite, that reality is so complex, so anomalous, so varied, that if there is an option between a simple definition and a more complex definition, that both are probably true, which adds to the complexity. In other words, that reality is far more complex than the human brain is capable of articulating. And so whatever we can imagine, whatever we can put into words, whatever we can articulate, reality is far more complex than that. And also that rather than either or, both and is consistent with that view. My best sense of the data that I've observed, which consists of a global phenomena throughout history, of multiple different styles of aerial craft and visitation, ties in with this view of complexity. I believe that in the last 40 years, we've moved by the ability to observe and measure more of our universe, certainly our galaxy, that there are over 1 billion planets that we know of so far, and this has gone up from nothing we know so far to a few that we know so far to 1 billion that we know so far, capable of bearing life. And if you take 1 billion probabilities of life, and you divide them 50-50, and you say that 50% of the environments suitable for developing intelligent life have done so faster than we have, and that 50% of them have done so slower than we have, then there may well be 500 million and counting intelligent life forms that have developed in their unique vein of pattern assimilation and evolution more intelligently than we have, and differently than we have, meaning we may well be the only planet in those billions that has focused on combustion-based engines? Maybe not. We may be the galaxy leader in fossil fuel consumption. There may not be fossil fuels on a majority of these environments, but each of these environments that has produced life, much like each country on our planet, is good at something. The Italians are good at pizza. They're not very good at Bangan Barta Indian curry. The Indians are good at dal. They're not necessarily world-class pizza makers. And objectively speaking, what we can say is that life is the creator of variety and anomaly, and that there is a very strong rapport between the environment and what is brought to life within that environment. If you are born in America, you are likely to embody American culture. You are unlikely to embody Indian culture. If you are born in cold climates, you are likely to think more about the future than if you are born in tropical food-rich climates, because the absence of thinking about the future leads to death in winters with 3 feet of snow. It does not lead to death in tropical islands surrounded by fish and tropical fruit. You can be much more spontaneous, and your environment will not penalize that trait as much as a cold or extremely volatile temperature or environment. What we see is that nature produces variety upon variety upon variety, and that all life adapts to the environment in which it resides and continues to develop anomalies. Even within a population of human beings, 10 to 20% of brains are wired unusually sensitively relative to the other 80 or 90%. We have gender difference. We have different talents. Some people are more artistic, some people more mathematical, some people have extraordinary hearing and are blind. Some people can see extraordinary detail, cannot hear. Nature produces anomaly. And in that anomalous production, what nature is betting on is that at least one trait will flourish in any environment, and thus life will go on. So my bet is that life is scattered in a way that we would be able to observe and measure, which is by no means the totality of life. We observe on a few dimensions in a narrow bandwidth of energy. Sound carries on vastly above and below the range we can hear. Light waves continue in vast continuums above and below the spectrum of light that we can see. Taste continues above and below the spectrum that we can taste. It is by no means a stretch to know that there is an observing and measuring device that can taste the air with as much precision as we can taste food. It's just our taste buds are not that sensitive. And touch and vibration continues above and below the spectrum that we can sense with the nerves in our fingers. And those are just the observing and measuring devices we possess. What about 1,000 different senses we do not possess that might register spectrums of reality we do not perceive, and that we do not perceive that we do not perceive, but are as real as this reality for consciousness and for life capable of perceiving, measuring, and interacting with energy on those dimensions or within those spectrums. Those that can hear 10 octaves to 30 octaves above our ears, but may not be able to hear what's going on that we hear. And those that are capable of hearing 10 to 30 octaves below our capacity to hear, which of course we do not hear, but which may not be able to hear what we can hear. We're talking about continuums of energy on an infinite spectrum of vibration perceived through observing and measuring devices on an infinite continuum of dimensions, of which we experience reality through 5 in a very narrow bandwidth. Even within that bandwidth, it's probable that life has scattered our galaxy, our universe, with a wide variety of intelligent, depending on intelligence and how it's defined, forms of life. And of the 50% of evolutionary processes that are likely to be proceeding faster than our own, that may leave 10,000 of those billion life-affirming environments, as we're thinking of life, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 million years of advanced technology relative to our own. Now, one of the interesting data points coming from Bob Lazar, but affirmed indirectly through everyone who experiences the UFO phenomena, is incredible speed and movement capacity beyond the ability that our bodies could withstand and beyond our ability to propel with current technology. And so we can deal with vast distances. Now, nature seems keen. If you look at a dandelion, it seeds itself all over the region, a single dandelion. One seed goes here, one seed goes here. A single dandelion might send out 1,000 seeds, and 5 might take root, and the dandelion pattern lives. And others go off and get lost, and others start growing and die, and others get washed out to sea in a river and don't germinate. But some do. Nature seems to abound with curiosity, with variety, with exploration, and with possibility. Meaning, nature loves to overextend itself in all of the different seeds that could find their way this way and that way, and delight in the chaos of seeing what might happen. And if that trait of life extends beyond our own planet, then any consciousness with technology in propulsion and transportation at or faster than the speed of light, mastering, as Bob Lazar pointed out, elements of gravity, changing the space-time continuum, so you don't move faster than the speed of light, but change time and space so that the speed of light takes you extraordinarily far, very rapidly, relative to time as a constant. Well, why wouldn't multiple? Why wouldn't dozens? Why wouldn't thousands of planets, in their outreach out into the fabric of reality, having mastered propulsion, start visiting one another? What did we do when we developed the jet plane, the ship, the boat, the car? We went out and traveled the world. And our culture is richer for that journey. Every time I go overseas and learn another people's way of doing things, I take parts of what I've learned back with me. And my world is richer for that journey. My mental world is richer for the journey. My emotional world is richer for the journey. My edible world is richer for the journey. My memories are richer. And sometimes technology and ideas and ways of doing things in daily life is richer as well. Well, that's just from traveling a planet. After visiting another species on another planet, how much bigger the world view from just one planet. So in other words, if we as a species had the capacity to travel around the universe to every planet capable of producing life, would we not set out on such a journey? Would we not say, oh, what's going on here, and what's going on here, and what's going on here? Well, the variety in craft, spinning red dots, silvery UFOs, tic-tac shaped UFOs, tailwind triangle, giant triangle, the incredible variety of unidentified aerial phenomena, some underwater, some above water, suggests that we could have different regions of one planet, meaning if every country on a developed planet, the Russia of that planet has an interest in checking out what's going on over here. The America of that planet with different looking devices has an interest in checking out over here. Or a more cohesive scientific body in planets that have unified to develop best practices in sciences where you might have dozens of different planets, each sending out probes, sending out manned probes, sending out reconnaissance, sending out scientific observation. What's going on here? What does Earth have that is unique that we don't have? And what do we have that's unique that Earth doesn't have? A free market economy of technology and culture brings wealth to all with the intelligence and capacity to engage in partnership with respect. It can, of course, spell destruction for those without that ability. But what if nature has a somewhat insulating program? What if the body of nature that is the universe limits cells of that universe called planets to migration or travel to those cells that have learned to partner with respect and synergy? What if it's self-evident? What if by the time one understands how to dance with the space-time continuum, how to play with gravity and travel faster than the speed of light, what if in order to discover those secrets one must understand cohesiveness and that one is part of a larger body? And in being part of a larger body, one must respect the energy field one is a part of, or those secrets are not unlocked. Then every space-faring civilization capable of making it across light years would understand the interconnected fabric enough to be respectful to a part of itself. The human expression of consciousness on this planet in its stage of development, and thus be benign and friendly. What if we are not ready? What if we have not mastered the brain state, moving from reptilian to limbic to rational to empathic to transcendent? What if we haven't reached the empathic transcendent bandwidths capable of perceiving the laws of energy, which in turn are capable of allowing us to migrate through the rest of the universe? But those ahead of us who remember this state of perception or consciousness to some degree are checking up, are welcoming us to imagine and waiting for us to cohere, to integrate at a level where free trade in energy is something that we can do respectfully and excellently. What if we are being visited by many planets for many different reasons, by many different types of peoples? Some millions of years ahead, some tens of thousands of years. If you look at how our S-curve of exponential growth has been occurring, we can see that even 200 years from now, we could be in domains that are unimaginable to our human mind today. Just like the cell phone would be unimaginable to someone 300 years ago. On an exponential curve, the next 200 years, the next 300 years, will be vastly more rapid than the last 1,000 or 10,000 years. And what if a gathering is joining to witness the birth of a cohesive planet, the birth of a transcendent species, that they have watched over and over again as one life form after another reaches this point of synergy and can become part as conscious players in the larger body of energy and of reality that is the universe, that is the multiverse, that is the multi-multiverse, as life is a fractal pattern getting infinitely bigger on continuums and infinitely smaller on continuums. Every one being a little bit different and yet largely the same. So I believe that whatever the narrative is, it is more complex than we can imagine. That includes multiple visits for multiple purposes from multiple civilizations, from multiple planets, with multiple technologies. And the main thrust, I think at this stage, needs to be humility to a wide range of possibilities. There may even be civilizations which have developed technologically beyond our own, but are still sociopathic. And so within the mix of that continuum, some element of threat. That's a possibility as well. Certainly, if human beings were capable of traveling to any planet in the universe, given our history of slavery, our history of bigotry and chauvinism and the like, if certain human beings got a hold of that technology, we would be a threat to certain civilizations and certain life forms without the capacity to honor that. And so, thank goodness, we don't yet have that ability. Who knows? But my view is the world is bigger than we can imagine.